So welcome back, everyone. We're here to do another coffee and construction. So that's the name we've come up with so far. Not 100% certain about that. Might change it. I did have a couple other ideas, and I'll give those to you at the end, and maybe we'll start a poll and see which one you like best. But at any rate, I got quite a few things here to respond to, so I'm going to get right to it. So first up, we have Cindy Engel 374, and she said, did you get that unit out of the tree in your back area? Did you find out who put it there? So the answer to that is yes, we got everything figured out. We did find out whose it was, and it's not a problem. Yeah, and we didn't keep it. There weren't any issues. Nobody was trespassing, or at least deliberately trespassing. So that's all worked out, and everything was very friendly and not a problem at all. Those sorts of things don't really come up on camera ever because, I don't really get too personal. And, it's somebody else's property, and, there's no reason to drag anybody else into it. So let's move on to the next question here. We have Asgard 41. Gotta ask, when you finish the Hoarder house and when you finish the border house and the Hoarder house, so I'm assuming that's, the Hoarder house and the front house, will you start a third project to keep the channel open? And yeah, we're already kind of talking about it. We don't have a plan yet. We don't know exactly what we're going to do yet, but we will start something up. And it's probably going to be a little bit of an overlap, whatever it is. So we'll figure that out when we get to it. But as of right now, there's so much to do on the property, because even after I finish the main renovations in the back house, obviously we got the front house, and then, there's always going to be stuff going on. This is going to be an ongoing project, probably over the next few years. So I'm not super concerned about that just yet, but yeah, we have talked about it. We just haven't figured anything out yet. So here we got Lily and Moomin. You show up all the time. I'm in the UK. What is a spigot? So a spigot is basically a faucet. It's just a little spout, got a tap on it. That's a spigot. When you hear spigot, or at least when I hear spigot, it typically refers to an outside faucet. I'm not sure if that's technically correct, but that's my understanding anyway. So now we've got Dorinda 5613. So since we're asking construction questions, here's one. I have a 1950s ranch on a cement slab. A new furnace, AC was put in back in the mid-1990s. He had new ducting work put in, so now there are ceiling vents and no longer use the floor vents. There are still vent covers on the old floor vents. How can I best seal those closed and take out the old vent covers, as they are no longer in service? So the HVAC system is in our attic now, so it's not hooked up to the old system. Only the original cold air returns got tied into the newer ducting system. So yeah, if you know that it's a dead duct, yeah, you can go ahead and seal that up, and it's probably ideal because it's just somewhere else for dust and things to accumulate. And if it's not in use, if it's not being serviced, then you're going to have more and more build up. Now, what I would recommend, and this is actually the easy part, is just pouring in concrete. It's on a cement slab. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Best practice for that would be to try to remove all the old tin, or as much as you can reach, and tie something into the existing slab around wherever it's cut out. It doesn't have to be full rebar or anything, just something to stabilize it against the existing slab, make sure it's nice and clean, and block it from going too far in. You don't need to fill the whole hole. So yeah, I would just pour some new concrete in, get it flushed up nice. The difficult part is usually tying in the existing floor over top of it. Unless you're doing the whole floor, it's not a problem, but if you are trying to tie into an existing floor, that is a bit of a challenge. It's kind of self-evident when you get to it, but that's, in my opinion, the biggest challenge of it. So we've got M Medley 2998. How do you feel about Faraday cages for homes? How do you construct one? So I gotta say, I never really thought about that. I don't know. I know a lot of people are into Faraday cages and things like that. I don't really feel any particular way. I guess the only reason I'm not paranoid, I mean, I suppose I'm paranoid as the next person, but the only reason is, you know, I don't really have, I'm more worried about scammers and things like that. You know, a lot of the information I have, I'm sure the government's already got it. But at any rate, in terms of constructing one, I don't really know. A real Faraday cage, an authentic one, you know, trying to do that around the house is probably highly impractical. However, if you look at the construction of, say, a tin barn and things like that, in essence, it's kind of a Faraday cage. There's very little that gets in there. And I know that because I go in and my cell phone barely works, and, you know, very few signals or anything make it in. And the house was, when we got the Hoarder house, it was essentially being turned into a giant Faraday cage. That was the stone blocks. You had the boron infused plastic pellets. All the cadmium, all the lead, all this stuff. That's essentially what he was trying to do, is make the house, or at least his little area, into this, you know, crazy effective Faraday cage. So yeah, I don't really have any feelings about Faraday cages, to be completely honest. In terms of constructing one, yeah, it's possible. It depends on how much protection you want, but it's, I would say, if you want something highly effective, it starts to become incredibly impractical. So moving on, Deborah Heskin, 428. Are you going to get a new furnace and ductwork? So I've already kind of answered that, at least half that question, in the last video about the ductwork, so I'm not going to go too far in depth with that. It will be getting cleaned, and I'll be replacing as needed. In terms of the furnace, I still have to go over it necessarily. I got a fly in here all of a sudden. I still have to go over the existing furnace in more detail. It was originally hooked up to propane, and it's not a high efficiency furnace. We'll probably want something nicer down the road, but it still has a bit of life left. But speaking practically, it's not worth replacing yet. It's one of the newer appliances in the home. And the thing about having a propane furnace is you can change out the orifice and you can convert it to a natural gas furnace, which is probably what I'm going to do for the meantime. I really don't want to, I don't want to overspend for the sake of, you know, making everything nice and new. It's, like I said, very impractical, because there's, from everything I saw, there's nothing wrong with the existing furnace. If anything, it wasn't used nearly as much as you would expect given its age. So this is just a comment from Nancy Carolyn. I thought was interesting. So she said, Andrew, we live in a S.I.P.S house. The manufacturer would not sell us a home unless we also bought the air exchanger system. It had to be installed and working before we could move in. I love my house and wouldn't live in any other kind. So a S.I.P.S house, I forget what they are specifically, but they're extremely efficient. They're just extremely efficient homes. And they are exactly what I was bringing up in the previous video. And I would call this just a matter of preference. So if you live in a home like this, a S.I.P.S home, your heating bills and cooling bills, they're low. They're very low. It's extremely efficient. So you could heat the house and it'll stay warm on its own without being warmed for quite some time. So there are immense benefits to these homes. And if you prefer them, then, you know, that's great. And all the power to you. You know, the technology's out there, and I don't see anything wrong with it necessarily. Like I said, it's just personal preference. My preference is to, you know, let nature do its job. But you know, I have nothing against the S.I.P.S homes. my only thing is, you know, if the system happened to fail, it's absolutely critical that that system is functioning while you're living in there. They did the right thing by saying you can't move in until the air exchanger is installed. The air quality without that air exchanger functioning would be horrendous and very bad for your health, and it does develop mold very, very quickly if it's not functioning as it should. But like I said, that's just a matter of preference. So here we've got much too pretty 57. I hope you're I hope you're much too pretty. So if you like the tenant house better than the hoarder house, will you stay in the tenant house and rent out the hoarder house? So my short answer is, if we move into the front house, which is what we're now calling the tenant house, if we move into the front house, it would only be a temporary measure. But no, I'm more keen on the house at the back. The biggest reason is it has a basement. There's no basement in the front house. The other reason is adding on to the rear house is way more doable. So even though on its own the main floors, I think there's a 200 square foot difference between the front house and the rear house. So it's pretty substantial. But the rear house has more potential in terms of developing it to suit our needs better. Erica Eschenbacher, 4921. I hope I said your name right. How much time and resources are you allocating to fixing up the front house to move onto the property sooner? Are you and Xana on the same page as she has talked about gut renovation in kitchen, bath, wall paneling, etc.? So in terms of time and resources, I just know from experience, when you start splitting your time, you start taking on multiple projects, both projects suffer. So if I start working on both simultaneously, which I kind of have to do no matter what, just because the tenants did move out, there's certain things that just have to be done, and I'll do those things. But my efforts are primarily going to be allocated into the rear house. I have permits on that place. I don't want anything to expire. It's not likely to expire, but you should make sure you stay on top of that. I just know that if I start moving into that front house, put the back house on hold, it's not going to be super efficient. The other thing that we're also in discussion about is if she does get into, you know, larger renovations back there, you know, if we do wind up gutting a portion of it or something like that, the rear house is actually much closer to finish at this point. The electrical was by far the biggest job. Once the electrical is done, the plumbing and the HVAC, they're nothing. The building is probably the smallest permit on the job. There's very few things I'm changing structurally. What you saw being removed in the house, that was all pretty much non-load bearing walls, and I've already been over everything with the inspector, and the only thing I really have to worry about is the integrity of the insulation. And I think there's one header in the back that I had expanded from 36 inches to 48. So it's not going to be too long before I'm at finish on the rear house, but the front house is probably much further away. So realistically, I think we're likely just moving into the rear house. The biggest benefit of moving into the front house instead was that I could work on the basement without people living in there, which I don't know. We'll see what happens. We're still talking about it. Just to mention, I get a kick out of it, but Xana is actually spelled X-A-N-A. Don't ask me how that works. I don't know. I found her, you know, and the name was already there. So I don't know where that came from or anything like that. But yeah, it's X-A-N-A. And as far as the same page, you know, we're on the same page, but it's constantly turning. You know, we're getting in, we're finding out what the problems are. We don't know just how much of a renovation we're in for just yet. So we're figuring that out as we go. All right, so here we've got James and F5U. Is it okay to plug a surge protector into a surge protector? I don't think it makes any difference, really. the only benefit of that, I suppose, is if the surge protector is far away from the source. If you happen to blow the circuit on the surge protector, it's a lot more convenient just reaching right next to you rather than having to go into a basement or something. Apart from that, it's really kind of redundant. To my knowledge, I don't know that there's any real added benefits to adding multiple layers of surge protection. When they talk about whole house surge protectors, the benefit there is guaranteeing that the entire house is surge protected, because if you're required to have every single circuit independently surge protected, that's way more money, and it is, you know, more maintenance down the road as well. But yeah, I don't know. That's really, like I said, I don't think it does anything. It certainly doesn't harm anything, I suppose. So there is that. So here we've got C3 POFMD. When are you going to work on the main house again? So I have been working on it this whole time. I know we've been showing footage of Xana working on the front house, but I've been actively working on the rear house. I've also been focusing on my day job a little bit, so I got slow for a little bit. And now, as it tends to happen, you go through a little slow period, and now it's everything has to be done at once. So it's not that I've taken a break. I've been actively working on it. I'm waiting for Ray to get back from his honeymoon so he can get back to editing and doing what he does. So we've kind of just been banking all the footage, and hopefully it keeps things ahead, because I'm really tired of him nipping at my heels on that. And I'm tired of, you know, getting stuff out to him late, and he's got to edit it the same day and all that. So we're using this opportunity not to take a break from the house. We're using this opportunity to just try and get ahead a little bit. And, you know, now there's 2 projects going on kind of simultaneously. So it's not that nothing's happening back there. It's just that it hasn't come up on the YouTube yet. Telly Kendall. Just thought, have you checked radon level in the basement? No, not yet, but we probably will. I know prolonged exposure to radon, you know, can cause very serious health risks, and it's a very avoidable issue when you do get the testing. There are things you can do to mitigate the problem or get rid of it altogether. It doesn't necessarily get rid of the radon, but it does circulate it out of the house. But that can be done towards the end of the project. I haven't had it checked yet, but should probably get it on my list. I haven't really thought about that. So we've got B. Lumencraft. So I think this was more just a comment. So he said, let nature do its thing. Well, having mold is exactly that. And he's got a little face there with the tongue sticking out. I thought it was kind of a funny, snarky comment. I'm sure he's just playing, I know that. But he said about insulation and air tightness. In Germany, houses are built of brick, stone, and/or concrete. This provides air tightness and thermal mass. The walls don't just mold because it's not wood, and rapid temperature swings are unlikely. There is need for ventilation, which is achieved by opening all the windows once or twice a day for about 10 minutes. This is ideal. Most people don't do it, and just letting fresh air in sometimes is enough for a healthy indoor climate in most homes. No noise. Houses are just drop dead silent. It's wonderful. And I saved that because I thought it was kind of a cool comment, and it brings you know, something up, since we have people from basically all over the world watching this. So the construction we use in North America in general, I think Mexico would be excluded. So I guess Canada and the United States, and you know, some other parts of the world, you know, it'd probably be a little bit similar. It is somewhat unique to this area. So he's talking about houses there, and many of the houses have lived a very long time and will continue to live for a very long time. Achieving that level of quality in construction, in, you know, producing in mass scales is extremely difficult. So you kind of have to need, you know, a decent amount of homes already built, and you have to have a good supply of homes for the population that's already there. So why North America really developed, you know, the style of construction it does, and I'll give you a good example of how this kind of plays out afterwards, is people came in and they needed homes fast, and this was the style of construction that could be built quickly. Now we used to build homes like that to a point. So what he's talking about is sort of a double brick construction is what we often call it here, where the brick is the structure itself. On modern homes, when you see them, the brick is really just a veneer. It's a decorative thing. It does add stability to the structure, and it does do something for noise deafening and for R value and everything else. But it is just, it's a decoration primarily. So a good example of why some building practices come to be is there was the Great Fire in London. I forget when, but it was quite some time ago, a Victorian period, I think. So when it went through, it wiped out most of the furniture in London. And this is, probably one of the major population centers in all the world. So, of course, the woodworking back then, it was very involved, very tedious and time consuming. They couldn't reproduce, enough in any reasonable time frame. So they developed wicker furniture. So this is where wicker furniture comes from. So a lot of times necessity is what develops these new or innovated building practices. Trusses are the same thing. People wanted to clear span structures, and they wanted to reduce work time and things like that, so they developed trusses, I think back in the 1920s. It just completely changed the face of construction. So necessity is typically what drives these changes. Now, as we get further from some of these older practices, we do see a drop in certain things. Aesthetics, for instance, everything's kind of built a little more similar nowadays, things like that. But at any rate, I thought it was kind of a cool point he made there, and that I would share it with you. So we have here Chester Snowdy. Have you had either houses checked for lead paint and or asbestos? So I have gone through. There is no lead paint in the rear house. In the front house, there is some lead paint. That won't be sanded or anything like that. It'd just be removed as it is. In terms of asbestos, I have identified Battleship linoleum in the front house. And so far, that's the only asbestos we have. Apart from that, the insulation in the front house really kind of predates common use with asbestos, and it doesn't carry a lot of the physical markers of asbestos. Now, if you do have asbestos insulation, that is something to worry about. It's what's called friable, and it's one of the worst asbestos is to have. Whereas something like the Battleship linoleum we have in the front house is that fly is driving me crazy. And he won't leave. Just hanging out. Anyway, the Battleship linoleum is probably one of the more docile forms, and with that, the biggest thing is just don't disturb it. You don't want to chip it, really. If you don't, then it's not a threat. It's like people who have asbestos siding. The idea is, don't start busting it up and all that, and then the fibers get in the air and things, and that's the thing to worry about. So either way, that situation is pretty well under control. All right, so we've got here Holly Grace blog, and she's somebody I know. Hello Andrew, when you first walk into my home, I have a small stone accent floor. We just did new flooring, and where the hardwood meets the stone area, there is a ledge that is at the highest point 1 3/8 of an inch. I am having a hard time finding a reducer to suit this height. I bought the tallest one I could find, and it still doesn't reach the ledge. I have tried checking so many different home improvement stores, and I can't find anything higher. Hopefully this is making sense. What are your recommendations for this ledge? Is there a way to build up the reducer I bought? Thank you. I wish I could post a picture to show, but hopefully I am explaining this correctly. So yeah, I get the problem. So what she's saying is she has her hardwood and her stone floor is up here, but it's 1 3/8 of a difference. And that's a bit of a toe kicker, so it leaves her in quite the conundrum. So there's basically two solutions I see here. So you're not going to find a reducer that size. It just, good luck. I would say, you can grab if you have hardwood, get something to match the hardwood. And the other thing is you don't want it, whatever you're doing, you don't want it super narrow where it could topple over time. If you just build a flat piece straight up, eventually you're going to walk over that a bunch of times, and it's actually going to peel away from the upper level of flooring. So I would say, get a piece of flat stock matching whatever flooring you're using. If it's oak, just get a 3/8 piece of oak. And then you're going to put that flat down on the floor, because guaranteed you can find a 1-inch bullnose piece, just a trim. And you could use just regular trims for this. They're just going to match your floor. So just, find something with a nice soft profile to go on top. And all you're looking to do is your build is going to match your 1 3/8 difference. So that's the easy solution, and it's topical. You just nail it right to your floor. It's not a problem. We do stuff like that on, complicated renovations all the time. Alternatively, what you can do, if you feel like cutting back some of the hardwood, which, I doubt most people are very, very sheepish about doing that, and I don't blame them. So you can cut it back and you can ramp it. Which would reduce the, basically having a toe kicker there, because when you have a narrow step like that, it's very easy to trip over, and it can be, pretty annoying. So if that's the case, you can cut it back as far as you want, really, and just ramp up, but that requires cutting out the floor. So that's, I guess, the short answer. You're not going to find a reducer. Good luck with that. If they do make it, I haven't seen one before. But go to the trim section, not the flooring section. And I guess that's it for that. So let's see. That's it for questions, actually. So thanks for joining me again. And if you like this, you want to keep it up, be sure to hit that subscribe button. And I'll keep answering your questions. And the questions don't have to be related to the project. I won't answer personal questions. I'll just give you a heads up on that. Outside of this, I am a pretty private person, and I kind of like that. But if there's projects related to, or questions related to your project, I'm all about that. I love answering questions. So feel free to send them. Send them in the comment section. Don't send them as a response to a comment. If you do have a question, because I don't, what I've been doing is, I come in just before filming this, and I look through and I gather everything that is a question, and obviously a question. So try to make it obvious right off the bat, say here's a question or something like that, and I'll definitely catch it. So as promised earlier, I did have a number of name ideas, and we can change the front and all that. So for this segment, the names that I had come up with, the options are basically, we've got the Fix-It Files, the Sawdust Sessions, of course, Coffee and Construction, which is what's on there right now, and What's the Damage? So I'm going to post those, or have Xana post it, because I have no idea how. We're going to do a little poll on the channel, so feel free to head in there and vote on your favorite option. And I can't wait to see what the results are. So till next time, we'll see ya.